Well, I'm on fireworks apparently with the black bands come up before I press the recording button, so I don't know really. Anyway, everything's been clean so far. I'm just going to put the magic coating on everything, so just get the scissors. I find with some of it's best for buckets and things like that, instead of using just the indelible pen, is to actually use this silver tape sort of stuff. So first of all, you put the silver tape on the container, and then you write with your indelible pen on the. That should make a good sound escape for you. And yeah, you just put it on the side and try and make sure you don't get any air bubbles or whatever it is in there, and just cut it like that sort of thing. And with these containers, I find it's best to write down on this what do you call that bit down the bottom there? Node, is that the word? Anyway, I just write the see, go like there, and I just write the magic formula on here. And, anyway, so that can go on there, so I know what's in that one, and I'll write it on here on this one as well, and but away from the candle, so we can still view the candle without yes. Okay. Anyway, well, that's that done, and now we get on to the next one, which is basically doing the same again. Is you know, everything's been clean, but I did the formulas in this order so that I wouldn't have any problems. So okay, no, I don't know. As I said, I think it's going to be a case of finding out that the wide angle with the widescreen function just gives me a large normal thing, and I should have had that all along. I think that's basically what it's going to turn out to be. It's something as dumbass as that. Again, it's like when I had my VHS camera. You know, the fundamentals of photography is focus, right? So they should have told me, if you want infinite automatic focus, you have to put the camera on this setting, and then whatever you put the camera in from 0 to infinity, it will come into focus, you know, and it will focus on it, and you'll be very happy. You'll be a very happy chappy, and you'll be telling the brand name of this camera to all your mates because you're just so happy with it. Not spending a year and a half or whatever it was just to discover that every so many clips you suddenly get, whoa, wow, the camera's, that's fantastic, you know. Wow, look at the detail I can see in there. How did that happen? And it took about a year and a half to actually find out that that only happened when you were at this particular magnification, you know, so many times. It was like 2.25 or something like that. And suddenly, if you happen to actually get onto 2.25 by accident, suddenly the rest of the clip will be absolutely fantastic. And you'll be thinking, whoa, I can look at the detail on that plant, going right up close, and everything's in clarity, and you couldn't work out what he was. And then said suddenly, you know, about a year and a half later, happened to get onto that. So I went through, you know, trying things, and I think, oh God, you know, what's going on? And suddenly you find that when you have the camera on this particular setting of magnification, I think it was something crazy like 2.25 or something like that, you know, not 2, not 2.5, it was something like that. And suddenly, no matter where you pointed the camera, it would, from infinity to really close up, like you could show a coin or something like that, you know, a 5-cent coin, it would even focus in on a 5-cent coin. So you could go from photographing something in the distance, you know, pointing it at a tree, you know, down the end of the street, to putting a coin in front of the camera, and it would automatically focus on the coin in perfect clarity. And basically, so what was that saying was the previous year and a half of footage was basically wasted. Basically, you'd just been up to that point, you were just playing. And yet there was nothing in the instruction booklet about that really important point, saying, you know, like a paragraph, focus. Now, so something like, focus is the most important thing. If you would like to have absolute clarity from whatever you point the camera at, from something down the end of the street to putting a coin in front of the camera, so automatically focusing on the coin and it'll be in perfect focus, you have to put your camera on this setting. Nothing in the book about that. Absolutely bugger all. So, yeah, maybe we'll do it this time. We'll do half and half sort of thing. So we'll, you know, 5 in that and 5 in this, and roughly getting the same. And yeah, something like that. We'll put 5 spoons in each of those, and it'll make it easier to mix up. Maybe that's the way to do it. But anyway, I'll just get my spoons and stuff, and we'll get on to this formulation. Well, I think that's our rant for the day, but as I said, you remember these things, and you know, are you ever going to buy that? Oh, it was a lovely camera for what it was once you got it working, but you know, wasting 1.5 years of your life and not getting really what you really wanted, and suddenly finding you could get really what you wanted, you know. And then, but what I'm saying is that 1.5 years, the camera died in around about 2004. So from 2000 to 2004, I lost 1.5 years of filming before the camera died in 2004, basically. So, you know, had I learnt that, I could have had an extra 1.5 years or so of filming, quality filming, and maybe once you're filming really well, you start planning things, you know. You say, well, I've got that under my belt. Now, what can I do with the camera? Oh, how about next year we'll plan to do this, 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 and this. But until you actually got your filming under your belt, you don't get to the planning stage. You're still trying to film, you know. So, you know, so these are important things, you know. Could have had an extra 1.5 years of filming of Donnie in really good quality. Maybe we would have done a few more field trips if the quality was fantastic. Maybe we would have gone out to some really far out conservation parks, knowing it was worth it, because we would have been having. This one needs a bit of work, fellas, but yeah, I need to mix it up. But anyway, well, it's live and let learn, isn't it? But yeah. Well, I noticed something on what was it? Facebook or something. It's George Harrison using wide-angle lens in India or something, and I'm thinking, yeah, yeah. So it could actually be important, you know. What happens if you know, someone like George Harrison had got something the quality of the camera I had, but back then, because you know the way that, you know, the development of the cameras was, you know, I think I remember reading somewhere that they were given the very first. The little sort of tape recorders we got in the early 70s in Australia, over in Perth, I believe, if I remember reading it rightly, they were given to the Beatles about, you know, 5 or 6 years before that. You know, they had them in you know, 65 or something like that, you know. So what we were getting in the early 70s, you know, 73, 74, so no, that must have been like 10 years before. So yeah. You know, they were testing them out. You know, the Japanese companies were actually testing these things out. You know, they gave the first working prototype models to the Beatles, so they could record at home. You know, if they got an idea at home or something like that, they could, you know, whack it down on this tape sort of thing and play around with it. But we didn't get those sort of models until, well, in Australia anyway. I mean, some of the Americans, they had colour recording in the 60s, and some of them they were recording Doctor Who being transmitted from, I think it was either being transmitted from Britain, or they were being shown in the States or something, and they were actually recording in colour in the 60s, and they've actually managed to resurrect some of the lost Doctor Who's with some of the old tapes, or they've been able to use some of these tapes as like data points for the computer programs, you know, so they can actually resurrect these episodes by using the, sorry about that, I haven't even got the screen. They can actually resurrect these episodes using data points from these old don't know what sort of, whether it was VHS or something they were using in America back then, but apparently some of them were actually in colour. Can't believe that. You know, they were actually recording tape of programs in colour in the 60s, you know, on their TVs, and oh geez, it's amazing. Just shows, doesn't it? As I said, science, it just brings the future into the present much faster. Edison and all those things, and Bell telephone and all that sort of stuff, you know. Apparently they've got Kodak and things like that. They've got special colour processes that only extend to the borders. This is what Donald Schnell was telling me. Only extend to the borders of the United States. So you can get it on Hawaii, because that's an official state of America, but you can't get it. Kodak Melbourne, Australia couldn't use it because that was beyond the so-called borders. So, you know, he was able to take my slides and copy them to a higher standard than Kodak Melbourne, Australia could do. And he sent me some slides back to me, and I couldn't tell the difference. You know, it looked like it was a slide that I'd just taken, you know. I couldn't tell the difference, basically. You know, I looked at it, I just, basically, I had to say, it's almost like I'd done a multiple copy of my slide. I just pressed like the camera button, I just pressed the button on the camera twice and taken 2 slides of the same image. It was that good. And he was saying, yes, well, we have these patents. Kodak in America has these patents that allows them to copy these slides. As I said, I couldn't tell. So from a human point of view, I couldn't tell that it was a copy, basically. You know, the detail was there. The colour was, I say, as near as perfect as you can almost get. You know, as I said, I could barely, you know, at a glance you couldn't tell. Even at studying it close up with your eye, I couldn't really tell. You know, there probably are differences, but you can definitely tell from the ones done by Kodak Melbourne, Australia. You could actually tell that it was a copy, not the original sort of thing. So there you go, you know. Bringing science, bringing the future into the present faster. It's going to happen anyway, you know. Anyway, I think we're done now. I think we should start another new clip, otherwise it would just take too long. Okay, and maybe I should put the wide angle lens back on. Okay, I don't know. Over and out.